Look, we talk a big game, we talk about aliens and Area 51 and how, it's all very exciting and conspiracies, maybe aliens are really out there, and we get quite excited about it, right? Science and all that. But when it comes down to it, yeah, science for Hattie there. But when it comes down to it, we on the affirming side of the house would much prefer that humanity were alone in the universe for a number of reasons. Firstly, because we feel that it would be much better for our society as a whole. And that's really our path through. That's our most important point here. And secondly, we also feel like the impact from on the other hypothetical other species is probably not going to be great either. And so overall, we just get much better outcomes if we remain alone in the universe. Okay, so what happens when we suddenly realize, okay, we are alone in the universe, right? We basically continue in the status quo where we think, yeah, we're just sort of doing it on our own. All our societal structures remain in place. What happens at the point in time where it becomes apparent in whatever way that there is some kind of other life existent in the universe, right? So we see a few things here. One of them we see a real downtrend in is religion, right? Which people immediately go, one of two responses, right? One, either this sort of crushes religious belief for quite a lot of the population, right? Who have some kind of belief in it. And then also for the small group of people who are going to take some real unhealthy interest in the existence of aliens and there are perhaps some greater beings come to save us or whatever, and I'm going to step you through why both of those are pretty negative outcomes. Firstly, what about religion, right? That most of, probably 95% of them would say don't include other beings in the universe, right? So most of the religions probably don't sort of go in for it. But it also happens to be a big social structure, right? Think about people like the Salvation Army, doing a lot of stuff for the poor, churches, basically creating community and therefore creating a big purpose. Because when we remove this religion through, oh look, but there's lots of other aliens, so we're not really alone, so God doesn't really exist, then we remove basically a glue that has sort of held together most of society, Western society in particular, right? Why is this? Basically because religion gives individuals purpose, right? Purpose for their lives, because they go, actually, I'm here to try and do some good in the world to please God, please Allah, achieve inner peace, whatever it happens to be. And in order to do that, they tend to live fairly societally good lives, right? They're not going to go out of their way just to be really rude to people or to spread misinformation and rumours, whatever, right? But then it also gives us a societal purpose, because as a whole, it's something we actually agree on, right? There's a bigger end goal in mind than just the here and now. So we see this being a long-term benefit. And then we see when we lose this, because we actually there's lots of other people in the universe, then we lose all of these societal structures that have kind of been sort of holding everything together. Secondly, we then see that we have this group of people who are sort of going to double down and become weirdly sort of obsessed with these alien creatures. You said in lots of doomsday cults, when they basically just sort of go, it's approaching the date of the rapture or whatever it happens to be, and they engage in plenty of antisocial behaviours, or shutting themselves off, some of them committing mass suicide. It's not really a great idea. And at the point in time where it's revealed that there is lots of other life in the universe, maybe this is the way in which we sort of fulfill this doomsday cultishness, right? And so overall we see a really negative impact on our society as a whole, if it becomes apparent that we are not alone in the universe, and for that reason we are much preferring that we are alone. Secondly, we have the impact on these other species should they happen to exist, right? So basically we see sort of two main avenues here. If they exist, then they're either going to be less developed than we are or more developed. So for the one with our less developed, cool. Basically we see that human nature and human greed is probably going to be a really polluting influence, right? Think it's basically just 18th, 19th century colonization all over again, right? Think about New Zealand, Australia, the States. Nowhere has colonization ever gone particularly well. Don't really have to even step it through. Basically, humans come in, take over, no, we're going to do it our way. We don't really care about your way. We're just going to go only this kind of thing, and basically it's bulldoze the existing population out of the way to expand their empire. So we can see there's a really clear harm for these other species at the point in time where they exist. And also we would say that general human badness, bad thoughts, inability to really get anything done well is also just going to sort of flow over, right? You know, even if they're sort of at about the same level as us, and there's various inter sort of connection, then we see that, you know, human ways of life and doing things like, you know, for all we know, these are very peaceful species, and humans come in and go, oh yeah, I'll sort of steal that, I'll kill that person, you know, which we see as being a really negative impact for them, because that's not something they're experienced with. Then third possibility is that they are possibly like more developed than us, which we would say comes back to being like a negative impact on humanity, because like basically what if they don't like us? And let's be honest, there's a lot not to like about humanity at this point in time, right? So we can see that they might be actually, we're probably, you know, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, maybe we'd just like put a highway right where they are, might be a better idea for everyone. And so we basically see that there's going to end up like a negative impact for humanity, you know, invaded or colonized. I've stepped you through why that's like really awful for the colonized. Taste for our own medicine. And look, basically, when we are alone in the universe, we don't have to worry about that. We can continue to live our own lives according to whatever religion, following these, you know, having an actual purpose in our life that is not something thrown askew by the existence of other creatures, right? And so for those reasons, we believe that this MOOC must stand.
Thank you for your speech, Imogen. We welcome up Lucy.
We are spinning on a speck of dust in a kilometre which is billions of kilometres wide that we have polluted, destroyed, and we're basically like really messed up, right? We also think that it's really important that we think that maybe we're not that alone in that. There is someone who is able to save us from the mess that we have made. But we also think it's important that we are able to engage with other cultures, even if they aren't human, even if they are alien cultures. Two main points I'm going to give you in this speech. Firstly, we're going to tell you that it's less utterly terrifying at the point in which we know we aren't alone, because we know we haven't we've got this massive barrier left to face in our civilizations. But secondly, that technological innovation and communication with other species is likely to change the face of humanity as they know it and entirely remove human suffering. That's an incredible benefit on our side of the house, and that's why we'd much rather exist in a world in which we are not alone in the universe. Firstly, though, two main points of rebuttal. Firstly, about human society. They told us about religious belief, but they never told us why it was intrinsically not allowed with religions to have alien species, right? We think religions have already been able to expand their dogma to cover other new scientific innovation that we haven't been aware of, right? So like when they originally thought that the sun went around the earth, everyone knew what it was, heliocentrism, that stuff, that was all stuff that we initially thought they were able to change their viewpoints at the point in which that science changes. I think it's incredibly likely that religions just increase that, like, to expand their dogma to some extent to say, look, this is God also created these aliens, which is not true that people can't continue to believe in God and have all that purpose. Secondly, this whole point about extremism, we think they've basically proved their own point when they've said they're already extremists. We think extremists are going to be extremists anyway if they're going to join like a doomsday cult. It's not that important that people suddenly change their behaviour drastically. We think people who would do that were already predisposed to do that. If they weren't going to do that, they were going to be talking about like God or something else. It was never that important. Secondly, this whole point on colonisation, about humans like coming in and taking over. Firstly, we tell you we think humans will place a great deal of responsibility and importance on how they receive us because it is a cultural thing, right? Of like making sure that the aliens think that we're good people, making sure that like we don't upset the aliens. So we don't think it's likely they're just going to let like randos go in there and upset them. We think it's probably going to be like a delegation that humankind will be able to come together in order to face that. But additionally, we tell you that means we think we're probably going to treat them well. We're not going to colonise them to this extent. We also tell you it was just like not true for them to just say that humans are necessarily going to be worse than these aliens. In all cases, we think in a lot of cases humans have good defining characteristics. Two points of substantive then in today's debate. Firstly, that it's less utterly terrifying, that it brings humanity together to know that we're not alone in the universe. Secondly, that technological innovation and communication are massively important. Firstly, it's less utterly terrifying to know that we're alone in the universe. So, firstly, we think that it's beneficial because we know that there isn't a massive filter that we're going to pass, like a barrier that we're going to pass to exist. So there's a theory that suggests that there's a massive barrier that civilizations have to pass in order to be able to survive in the future, right? Because otherwise, it makes no sense that we haven't been contacted by aliens in the past, right? What that means is that we think that it means that it's likely that if they are other species, we have passed that filter already, right? So the filter, the barrier that was to us in being better in life was us becoming amoebas or whatever initially, rather than an eventual barrier to civilization that we have yet to reach. What that means is that we're not just going to die for circumstances outside of our control because we passed that filter, that humanity can go on to prosper. But more importantly than that, we tell you what it means is that humanity is able to come together as a common existence. Because when we are utterly alone in the universe, that means that we are part of each individual group of our own humans. We are countries, we are our ethnicities, we are our genders, we are all of those things, rather than having a concerted idea of being a humankind and a human race. At the point in which we think that we know that we are not alone in the universe, all of those petty struggles between us become so much less. All of the differences between our religions, all of the differences between those things become so much less because we understand that there are other beings out there, because we understand that we have a human identity. That's incredibly important because we think it firstly reduces those kind of conflicts because there's a lot less of pressure behind them at the point where you say, look, we're all humans and it actually means something rather than just being pointless. But we think that means that it makes us more likely to unify together. Finally, then, technological innovation and communication. If we have not been communicated with yet by these aliens, we think it means that they are benevolent and probably more advanced than us. Why is it the case? Because we have only existed for 14 billion years, which is a really small amount of time in the context of the entire universe, right? So it's ridiculous to say that we're probably the most advanced in the universe. We think we're probably one of the least advanced because we've existed for such a short period of time. If they haven't communicated us yet, that means they are probably benevolent because they understand that we exist. They are more advanced than us, but they have chosen not to interfere with us. What does that mean? We think that means that now that we are able to, firstly, we think it will increase human exploration and technology and innovation massively because there is now a massive incentive to be able to go and meet these aliens. It means more money is pumped into space programs. It means more money is pumped into new technology. That's beneficial because that technology was incredibly beneficial. So the space race was really good because it increased computer technology that could then all have iPhones and stuff like that. That's incredibly beneficial, but once you actually meet the aliens, we also think you now have massive amounts of new technology. We think they're probably so advanced they're able to entirely stop human suffering. They are able to create medications that reduce all of the diseases that humans have to face with. They are able to entirely stop those kind of small things which make our lives a living hell here on Earth. We think those are all the things that they are never able to solve on their side of the house because we are just trapped by ourselves. It looks like cool stuff like Dyson spheres, which Hattie tells me is when you can get all the energy from a star and you can take all of that energy and use it to massively change the world. Why is it important? Because right now, all of the problems that we face are energy problems, right? All of the problems that we face with people not having enough water is because we can't desalinate the water because it takes too much energy. At the point at which we have all of that alien technology, we are able to entirely change the face of existence on planet Earth. We are able to stop climate change. We are able to do all of these things because we have access to that massive amount of new technology by a benevolent alien race. But importantly as well, we have a shared identity in our humankind and we are able to stop the face of human suffering, save hundreds of thousands of lives in the future. It is far better if we are not alone in the universe.
Cheers, Lucy. We welcome up Andrew.
Adjudicators. We have all dreamed of aliens. We have replied going to Reading Area 51 Facebook pages, and we have stared at the stars wondering what is beyond. This finding other life, or not finding other life, will be the most significant discovery of our human adventure pretty much, because they give us a sense of perspective, who are we in this world? These are questions that people ponder on every day. And so on this side of the house, we prefer a historical and scientific narrative that finds us to be alone in the universe. Because on the affirming side of the house, we believe that our loneliness binds us together. I will be walking you through our response to the negating team's case today, centering on the two main points of clash. Number one, the impact on our own civilization, and number two, the impact on civilizations beyond. So, what have we heard about this first point of clash from the affirming team, from the negating team today? We have heard that it is less terrifying to be alone for our own society, and that religion has embraced other scientific developments evolution, for example. and therefore, like they'll be happy embracing like the concept of extraterrestrial life. And so, first and foremost, I'm going to walk you through just why religion can't embrace this concept of aliens or extraterrestrial life. So, what have we like discovered that has been like heartbreaking to people? So like evolution, for example, like that's a variation of like how we like perceive how things came about to be on Earth. So like people argued that like they were placed here like one day, like some people like, you know, may have like questioned that before, but like evolution gave a variation of something we already had like somewhat of a concept of. We knew that there were animals on Earth. It was just kind of like a discovery for us. So was it that significant? Not really. I mean, obviously it holds scientific weight, but when you're talking about finding life outside of this planet that we have no concept of, we don't know like at the moment like if like life could even exist, if there's a planet like that could sustain life like the way that we have. And so this would be like absolutely like heartbreaking to like people who rely on like, so why like religion provides like a moral framework, it provides purpose, and it provides like a sense of like not being scared and like a massive, like Lucy said, we're a speck of dust in like kilometers. That's scary. What's like more scary, like being one speck of dust in like a kilometer, or being like one of 1,000 and just being like, yeah, y'all, like we're on this together. And so, like, because religion provides these frameworks and these, like, therefore, like, socially focused lives, people, like, want to, like, follow their religion, like, to, like, a correct esteem and therefore, like, progress into, like, whatever's next. And, like, so once we don't have that, people lose a sense of purpose. People, like, turn to, like, socially unacceptable behaviors because, like, these things that they have, like, turned to justify social standards have fallen. But if we're alone, we see that like these belief systems that people have had and developed, like they really like fundamentally like just changed, and therefore these huge changes to people's lives aren't as evident. Also, if we're alone, to humans, the sense that like actually we are the only people here, this is the only planet that we have that has sustained life, let's unify, let's talk about climate change, let's like actually like acknowledge real issues. This is like a massive opportunity for like unification. If we found other life, it's kind of like, oh yeah, well like we've been complaining about climate change, how about like let's just go like move off with like ET, like let's have fun. And so like this idea of like technology, also our response to this is that like the idea that you could get like medical advancements or like technological advancements is completely contingent on like the idea of this alien race being like somewhat similar, or their planet being like somewhat similar to us. And in a universe, and like I don't understand space to be honest, but like what I do understand is that like it's bloody big, there's a lot of it, and we're tiny, and so like the like likelihood of us finding like an alien race and being like, oh my god, like you know penicillin too? Love it. That's like extremely likely. Anyways, in front of Flash, other civilizations. So the impact on aliens, we see like two kind of like alternate realities. First one is less civilized. Less advanced than us, so like they would be influenced by human greed, and like how is that going for literally any minority like colonized by people? We see this as colonization 2.0, except worse, because at least when people were colonizing like other places, like the Europeans coming to New Zealand, Māori were like humans. We are talking about things that people don't even like perceive to be the same as them, so therefore the treatment of their race would be like significantly worse than anything we've seen previously. And if they were more advanced, we know that because of all the stuff we've done, they'd probably look at us and be like, you're a insert explicit, and then probably colonize us. So like, let's have fun. Is that something we really want the negating team? No, it's not. And because I have walked you through, and also planets have like such a huge potential for like mining. So like people like look at like the moon, like H2, and like the potential that has for like a caseload of that to power the Earth for an entire year. We see them as very valuable. So the resources that people want on these other planets that give them economic gain, the lengths they would go to damage these like other places would be like way more intense than anything we've ever seen before. So we know that the outcomes for our civilization and other civilizations are worse, and this move must stand. Thank you.
Cheers, Andrew. We welcome up Hattie.
One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. These words are perhaps the most profound that humanity has ever spoken. The space race was the greatest technological innovation, the most uniting thing that humanity has ever done. So if we can take that to the next level, to the final frontier of space, then what is stopping us? As philosopher Xavier once said, no astronaut ever went to space and said, hey, looking at Earth and seeing the reality of the universe was cool, but you know what's way better? A good old-fashioned bar fight. No one does that. You go to the moon and you realize the reality of life, the beauty of the world. We become united as a species and work to solve the problems that we've identified in society today. Two main points of clash for you today. Firstly, how do we best benefit society? And secondly, how do we endure as the human race? A universal domination is the goal in the end. Right, on benefit to society. Firstly, on technological development. They've tried to tell you that other civilizations are going to be like, oh, humanity, let's just invade them. What we're telling you is that civilizations are probably a lot more developed than us. They're going to be rooting for us and want to aid us to some degree, right? But furthermore, it's more motivation for us to develop. Like, we want to get out there into the universe and meet our alien friends. That's a pretty cool incentive, right? We're united in this common goal in the same way that we were united in the goal of making it to the moon for the first time. Furthermore, on technological development, they've told you that they are probably going to have different technologies to us, right? That's a benefit because then we get different ideas to develop new technology, new ways of harnessing renewable energy, new types of elements that we can discover and use to create better medicines, better things like a cure for a future pandemic or something. That kind of stuff is going to be massively beneficial in terms of scientific and technological development. If we don't have other people out there in the universe trying to explore those areas that we can't reach, then we don't get that technological development. That's something only we can get if there are other people in the universe. Secondly, on religious implications, they tried to tell you that, like, religion is going to be dead, God is dead if we discover aliens, right? But what we've seen is that we always develop religion in some way. We've told you about evolution, about heliocentrism, about flat Earth. There is always going to be disruption of both religious and scientific theory. That's why it's always changing, and that's why they endure. There's no reason why you can't just expand it to God also, like, creating aliens. On the 8th day, he made the Martians or something, right? Finally, under this point, on universal relations. So they've tried to tell you that, like, warfare is going to be incredibly likely as a result of discovering alien species, right? What we tell you is that these civilizations are likely way more developed than us. They agreed with this with their, like, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy example, right? But then what we see, what we've consistently told you, is that these aliens are more likely to be like, oh, humanity just figured out antimatter, how cute. Like those kind of zoo penguin cameras, right? That's the kind of stuff that they're probably going to enjoy watching, and they're going to be rooting for us in some way, right? Furthermore, we have things in place that are like agreements between different groups of people, or kind of like, although it's on a smaller level between countries, we have like the Antarctic Treaty. What's to say that we can't have like a solar system treaty, right? We work out those sorts of issues regardless of language barriers and things like that. We have an agreement like not to mine on the moon. Stuff like that can still happen even though we're like expanding the scale massively. That kind of stuff is going to endure. We're going to develop much better relations with other species. That's incredibly beneficial to society because we get that technological development, because we develop those sorts of relations, and because we develop like new religious theories, right, that are going to propel us forward in terms of our belief. So finally, how do we endure as the human race? This is the ultimate goal, right? Humanity wants to stay alive, but what that means is adaptation. So firstly, we need to solve problems now, but we also need to be adequately equipped to solve future problems. So what do problems now look like? This is climate change, that kind of stuff, right? We can solve this with alien help, or we can realize that this is the one planet that is wholly ours. We gain an understanding that this planet is ours. We don't have aliens on it, right? We have the comfort of the familiar. We get to see sunsets in the morning. We have trees. We have an oxygen-based atmosphere. We realize the value of life and begin to realize that we can change this in a way that is like beneficial to society, right? In terms of warfare, we've told you that we'll unite as a family. We see ourselves as a sort of tribe, like with the space race, or leaving messages for aliens from humanity on the moon. That's something that is incredibly profound, because those are the few times where humanity has come together and realized the gravity of the situation we're in, the craziness of being this tiny speck of dust hurtling through a universe. That's incredibly powerful. But secondly, on solving future problems, collaboration is what drives us forward. As Andrew said, we are all in this together. Together we can endure, not just as a society or as a species, but as an entire universe. We get to learn more, we harness the universe's energy, we come up with new ideas, new treaties, new collaborations that help us to survive and overcome massive issues like the heat death of the universe or something. Perhaps if we collaborate, we can help to prevent those sorts of massive threats that oppose the survival of humanity and the survival of other alien species. So what we see is that if we discover other life in the universe, we realize the situation that we're in today. We realize that we do need to make a change as a society, and we can adequately do that with help from others, or if we just get our everything together and begin to realize that we need to work together. Ultimately, that's most important in this debate. Very, very proud to oppose.
Cheers, Hattie. We now welcome back Lucy to give the leader's reply.
When you're not alone in the universe anymore, the argument that you have with your neighbour about whether they should mow their lawn or not seems pretty small in comparison to the knowledge that you are a shared human race, that you are together on the spinning rock and there are others like you and others different to you. That shared human identity is incredibly important. But beyond that, we tell you it's even more important is the fact that you are able to effectively cease human suffering at the point that you are able to get the technology that alien species have, when you are able to learn, when the human race can develop like it never has before. That's something that's also an incredibly important benefit that we can only have on our side of the house in this debate. Two main points of clash then. Firstly, how do we endure as the human race? Secondly, how do humans' attitudes change with the knowledge that we are not alone in the universe? Firstly, how do we endure as a human race? This is the most important point in today's debate because I just want to cut through all the existentialist stuff. How do people's lives actually change as a result of knowing that there are things, there are more people, we are not alone in the universe? Firstly then, what do these aliens actually look like? We tell you, probabilistically, they are A, more advanced than us, because we've only existed for a very small amount of time in the grand scheme of the universe, so it's almost certain that there are aliens who are far more advanced than us because we've only existed for that very short amount of time. Secondly, benevolent, for two key reasons. We brought you both of these have remained unresponded to. Firstly, because societies become more benevolent over time, because there is a sense of progress. We think that since these societies are more advanced than us, they will be benevolent towards us. Plus, they haven't invaded us yet, so we think they probably are benevolent at the point where they've left us alone and they're just waiting for us to contact them. Why is this incredibly beneficial? Firstly, because there are now massive incentives to explore and innovate, to create new technology that allows us to get to the moon. We've told you down the line that that's what leads to us, humankind, to have greater technology. That's remained unresponded to. And secondly, because they can give us that new technology. Their only response here was that they're not that similar to us. If that's the case, that's awesome, because we now get crazy new tech that we have no idea about, and we can learn all of that new science that's related to us. We can have understanding of that new technology and see how it impacts ourselves in our lives. And we think in a lot of cases it will be applicable because there are broad problems like, radiation exists to the same extent in like infrared, so we can deal with like climate change to the same extent as other planets. And the balance of probabilities in at the end of this point, you're far more likely to have helpful aliens who are able to give you the technology that entirely ceases human suffering. Even if that probability is very low, that's such a massive benefit that you should weight it very highly in today's debate, because being able to stop hundreds of thousands of deaths through things like cancer and other diseases we aren't able to stop, being able to stop things like climate change that will cause all of those climate change refugees, all of those things, that's incredibly important. Secondly though, how do human attitudes change? Firstly, they told us about religion. They never really actually mapped out why it's incompatible with the knowledge that we have there are other people in the universe. We think it will adapt and overcome. Finally, this binding together. We think we become united as species beyond our petty struggles and unite together to have a shared sense of identity. They tell us our loneliness binds us together. We tell you it tears us apart because we feel like we are the only ones in the universe. We do not have any sense of shared human identity. At the point in which we are not alone in the universe, we are aware of that, we come together, our problems seem incredibly small, and we don't continue to squabble as we have under the status quo.
Cool. And for the last speech of the tournament, we welcome back Imogen.
God is dead and we have killed him. Or rather, the existence of aliens did, right? Because that is what it would mean to discover that we are not alone in the universe. The debate today has come down to sort of 2 points of clash. What is the impact on us? What are the impacts on these potential other civilizations? Most importantly, what is the impact on us? I had a very sort of soft sciences point from the NEG, who are saying, you're basically like, we're just less terrified because we know that we're not here on our own, right? So, and they've kind of 2 points on this. Firstly, religion's going to be okay, but it's just going to expand dogma because religion just does that all the time. Historically, no. And also there's a slight difference between heliocentrism and actually oh yeah, on the 8th day God created Martians. I think it's going to be quite a significant disbelief at that point in time that is actually going to relate to what we have told you down the line of this loss of sort of moral compass and purpose from religion. And people are going to be kind of justifiably angry about that, which I think is going to lead to negative sort of less of the social cohesion that the negative tried to tell you is going to come about, right? And secondly, the idea basically we're going to have a common identity because we're going to be, the humans of the solar system, of the Milky Way galaxy, that's going to be who we are. We have actually told you that is just sort of, oh, okay, we're just sort of one set of beings amongst a whole lot of other sets of beings. Whereas when we are alone in the universe, like Andrew said, our loneliness unites us because we know that this is all there is, this planet is all we've got, and so we need to bind together and actually make something of it, right? And at that point in time, we think that we actually gain that really positive outcome of working together. Secondly, about sort of we're going to gain technology from aliens. Again, Andrew just said they probably won't necessarily have the same sort of issues as us, given humanity screwed up a few things quite badly. Hattie Lucy tried to tell you, oh, that's a good thing. Yeah, but not if there's just oh, cool technology, we can do this and that, but it's not actually going to help us cure cancer, right? So we're not necessarily going to see those concrete benefits. Secondly, about the impact on others, about how they're unlikely to be worse than us. Basically, all I said is, oh, just on the probability of it's been a long time. Still, nonetheless,